Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast. For men and women at mid-career or the halftime of life with issues that concern you. Maximize your skills, resources, and experience to live an even more fulfilling and significant second half of life. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson, on Women at Halftime podcast.
Well, hello, Greg and Deborah here today. And good to be with you. Greg and I are on together once a month on this Women at Halftime podcast. So much fun to have you. And I looked, we are at our 165th episode here. Yeah, 165th. So we have, I started with number one like everybody else did and decided that if I started this, I was going to continue. And that's kind of one of the points today of our subject, which is the power of why and your story. And actually, I'm kind of changing it a little bit, the power of why and really our stories, because we've been at this for a very, very long time. And, we didn't even discover the importance of why or purpose when we were first starting out. We were just doing. And I think a lot of people now, they're going, I have to think so hard about this. And so we're kind of wanting to encourage you just from experience and from what we have experienced in our lives. So kind of to give you a little heads up, I will be coming out with a series of articles on purpose. It's the third step of getting out of a roundabout. The first is your position, then your perspective, and then your purpose. So I will be expanding on this quite a bit more with free downloads and wonderful articles to help you even dig deeper in your own career and your own life. But we all have different stages of our life. So I wanted to put that out there and just encourage a lot of you. And some of the reasons that I even went into speaking, DeborahJohnsonSpeaker.com. You can see some of that, but it all rotates around this power of why and purpose are interchangeable. What is your definition of why or purpose and where you are at in your life?
My definition of why, it's so we all start with like a what, and that is, what can I do to make a living? And, you figure out something. You can clean pools, you can make cakes, you can do accounting really well. And it's kind of a commodity. And then you start to explore, because the world, and we've talked about this before, tends to turn us all into commodities. Yeah. We're just one ant in the anthill. And so we start to go, well, what kind of value can I bring that maybe the other ants can't bring? And so we, decide that we can do pools, a different way because we treat the dogs nice that are there. Or, your accounting is different because your tax planning involves making the most on money-making accounts or something. But somewhere we figure out not only what, but that how we do it is a little bit different than, everybody else. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, we get to a place and we ask ourselves, why are we doing this? And the why typically starts out as because I need to eat. It's a very self-centered, not in a bad way, but self-focused. How's that? Self-focused answer. And eventually, what's interesting about humans is that probably 80% of us long to have a why answer that focuses on everybody else. That the why I do this isn't just so I can eat, not just so I can get more famous, not just so that I can look good on Snapchat, but rather that I can help people in a unique way. So why answers the question how you can help people in a unique way.
Mm-hmm. Boy, great answer. And we don't always discover that, again, right away, because we are looking at making a living. I mean, my first teaching job I took because I had finished school and I wanted to buy a new car. That was as deep as it went. It wasn't helping children. It wasn't helping, educate. No, I just needed a job, and it was right in front of me, offered to me on a silver platter.
But it was a what that you could do to make money.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what it was. So, and as we go along in our careers, especially because I speak mostly to people at mid-career and the halftime of life, there's, of course, this is applicable to all ages, but as you are at this stage, sometimes you're asking the bigger question of this significance, or how to make a difference, or how to, help people more than just help yourself in making the living, although you're helping your family when you're making a living. So, but those are those sort of questions that we all ask. But one of my points in this is that at different points in our life, we have that difference that we, when you went into financial services, it was mostly, again, to make a living.
That's right.
Yeah, we were kind of scraping along, and I've been a lifetime entrepreneur. We still have, had kids at home, and, and 3 boys, they ate, and the sports.
Yeah, on financial services, we needed to pay the mortgage next month, and I think we've talked before about the first thing you do is you go find low-hanging fruit. What are the things that you can sell that will provide income for this month? Mm-hmm. And, in my case, it was term life insurance policies and group health insurance. Mm-hmm. And those were all things people needed, and I just needed to get myself next to people who already had that need. And in the how and why wasn't relevant at all. Right. And then once I got my monthly to the bare minimum, I started looking around, and I go, okay, there's thousands of people who do the exact same thing I'm doing. Am I doing this in a way that differentiates myself from everybody else? Mm-hmm. And the answer was kind of no. And so, you start going, okay, how can I be different? Well, I can be more knowledgeable. I can certainly ask the right questions so people feel like they're getting solutions that meet their needs. So, you start to modify your how quite a bit, and you become more of a professional in that process. And then eventually, you get successful enough where you step back and you go, okay, I'm different than everybody else that's doing this for these 3 reasons. Mm-hmm. That's good. But is doing all of this just for myself really rewarding? Is it really enough? Mm-hmm. And that's when I discovered, the why. And the why needed to be that people needed a knowledgeable professional in our area, and I needed to make enough money to be able to give back to the community. So, once you get to that place, suddenly you have an inspiration.
Right.
I don't call making next month's mortgage and making sure your family has enough to eat is inspirational. Right. It's certainly responsible. Yeah. But for the long haul, for whatever reason, humans need inspiration. Yeah. And like I said, most humans long for a why. Mm-hmm. There are some power-hungry people that can live off of just being richer than everybody else, right. Appearing to be more powerful than everybody else, right. And never, ever answering the question, why am I doing this? Yeah. They don't care. Yeah. But those exceptions, I don't think, are true to the rule. Mm-hmm. I think most of us long to matter to other people. That's where the why fits in.
Right. Really a great answer of just how it developed for you as well. And that's kind of what happens in our lives, things that slowly develop. At first we think, oh, I'm just going to create this business. But then we see, wow, it's more than that. Why did I learn music again? Well, at first I did just, I have all of this music, I've got courses, all of this. Oh, I'll do some sort of membership. And that came out of me seeing and hearing from really, I don't know how many people, hundreds of people that said to me, I used to play and I'd love to play again. And I'm thinking, okay, so start, do it, So, and what I recently did, because I've got so many things now that I'm handling in different parts of my business, is I opened that up again. In fact, you can find it on a free Facebook page right now, Learn Music Again. You can join that group free, because I thought, people need a ramp. They need to start. The biggest problem with people getting going, or even coming to a financial services person, would be making the appointment, showing up, going to the dentist, make an appointment, starting piano again, make an appointment, show up and get going, no matter how hard it is, just those slow steps. So that became really a deeper purpose for me, because and this has happened in multiple areas of my business. It happened with speaking, because I still remember the morning I showed up with Greg. We have coffee often in the mornings. It's one of the wonderful perks of our little coffee machine. And I showed up and I said, Greg, I've been speaking and I've been doing all of this on how to get unstuck and everything. But you know what? There's so many people just not maximizing their skills, their resources, their talents, their uniqueness. And I still remember you looking at me with these huge eyes and saying, that's it. That I'm hearing your heart now.
Yes, that was your why. Came spewing out.
But I had been in it. I had been working in it. I had been speaking.
You just hadn't defined it.
I hadn't really defined it the deeper. I'd even written books. But I hadn't had that sort of, you used some sort of thing that drives you, that sort of reason. I think you worked, what's rewarding, or all of those sort of things, and being able to help others. And that ended up and still is that is what really drives me. And I figured this out too, because sometimes you have to be, I guess, at our stage of life to get this. But I figured out that I had been helping others in the area of music, not just in professional and personal development, but in the area of music, to be able to maximize their skills, their experience, their uniqueness, since I started at the age of 13, teaching privately.
And there's a big difference. It's not just subtle between teaching piano lessons and helping somebody maximize their musical talents.
Right.
And you can't fake it. You can, I guess you could write that down and say that, my why is to maximize.
Yeah.
But unless that's your heart, you're just faking it, and it won't come off. But once you realize that you really do have a why, it really changes life, and it makes it so much worthwhile.
Yeah. And I think I started realizing more and how to really pull it out of people when I started to teach more voice instruction, because everyone wants to be a voice star. And I tell you what, I've heard some, and I'm thinking, oh dear, okay, so you're trying out for what? And so we focused on, what's your uniqueness? How are you going to walk on stage? What physical features? Oh, you have amazing eyes. How are you going to communicate that? Of course, and the breath and we do everything possible to be able to, and listening and to be able to produce that good sound. But sometimes there are certain pieces that you can do that are more personality pieces, and you can get away with a whole lot, and speak a little part of it, all of those sort of things, maximizing some of that uniqueness. And that's directly applicable from my stage, it's directly applicable to helping people, directly applicable, because I've done this for so many years. And I've been performing and still do in this field where the 1% of the 1% actually get a living, earn a living and work. And it's very competitive. And so understanding, what makes you different, what makes people come up to me and say, oh, that was amazing. This just happened yesterday. So just amazing. So what are those unique parts? Don't be afraid of those. But some people are afraid of letting those forward too. And so that's the beauty about going a little bit deeper. And I will talk about this more in the articles and how to even just do that. But that's the importance of this purpose of getting deeper in a lot of these areas.
Right.
So this also applies, and Greg's, of course, you've been by my side in a lot of these projects that I've done, which seem to be one after the other, but the ones in writing musicals, talk about a challenge of producing musicals. We have quite some stories about that, about producing those. But one of the things, I'm doing a couple live streams on what I'm working on now, kind of behind the scenes, so you can catch me on the social media. But one of the things that I decided to do was write a historical mini course about the Russian Revolution right around the time with the Tsars, with Nicholas and Alexandra, because the musical I wrote called Tsarina it's a musical based on that history. So why am I doing this? Why am I putting the work into doing an online course? Well, number one, I can do it. That's not reason enough, because I've done whole courses, produced all courses, because I can do it.
So that's a what?
That's a what? Yeah, that's not. Okay, so and it's not a strong enough why to make me get out there and promote it to the people that need to see this. But one thing I'm really passionate about is, unless we know a little bit more about the true history, how can you develop a character? How can you develop a story? And especially for an actor, how can they grow deeper into that character if they don't really understand the true historical character? And then you can expand it. I mean, this is, you can exaggerate. That's what a lot of acting does anyway. But
I think with the war going on in Russia, you found it poignant and applicable to understand kind of the beginnings of modern Russian history.
Yes.
And her play on the last Tsar and Tsarina of Russia is right at the genesis of
really is.
that modern history. Yeah. So, she feels one of her whys is to, help Americans understand the genesis of modern Russian history. And she just so happens to have a full musical.
Right, and it was the end of the autocratic rule of just that they were like a king. I mean, and of course Nicholas was really totally unprepared to lead, but he was put into that position. But that was that end of that autocrat, and then the communism, it all took over. Yes, but what's happening in our world today, and I'm seeing, this is part of the why as well, where people want to erase history.
Oh yeah.
And
instead of appreciate and incorporate it.
And learn from it. If you erase all of your mistakes, you can't learn from, I did that wrong. And this is the beauty about pencil and erasing, right? And anytime we do music sketching, I'll do those in pencil always, because you can change them. And but with history, it's so much of that value of knowing what did happen and what can happen in the future. So yeah, that's a very valuable value. And putting out different courses or why do I do this podcast? I mean, it's fun because I feel like I'm reaching different audiences now, and I only do one interview a month because I want to be able to just expound on some of those current thoughts that are going on and some of the experiences that I've had throughout the other times of the month, and then bringing you on once a month, which is great fun. But it's unique. We've been married for so long. There's not a lot of people that would do this that have been lasted through the years and raising kids and all of that at this point. It's a uniqueness that I feel like we can give. And it not only, like when you said what's unique, when you were trying to describe that, and you did very well with the financial services, what's unique. One of your huge strengths is asking questions, and being able to bring that on with not only your business, but also in some of our episodes. And as we think through some of these subjects together, it adds value to those listeners. So again, if you're starting out and what sort of advice would you have? Someone's just graduated from college and they've read Simon Sinek's book, there's the Power of Why and the Golden Circle, and you're going through all of these steps and you're thinking, okay life, okay world, what advice would you, as a seasoned, you've gone through a number of careers, because of course starting in baseball and moving along with a number of different things, what would you tell them at this point? What sort of advice?
Well, I think until you settle on a business, you can't have a why. So if you try to have your why before you have a what, it's not really.
Right.
If you go back to Steve Jobs and who started Microsoft? Bill Gates.
Yes, thank you.
What they figured out was, in order to make a buck, they could build computers. Mm-hmm. So they had their what figured out, and they, in a year or two, figured out they could build computers pretty well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the first thing. You got to figure out something you can do pretty well. And I started out as a baseball player, and somebody offered me a chance to make money playing baseball. Well, so I had a what. Yeah. But then baseball ended, and I had to start over again.
Yep.
And my dad's sage advice, when I asked him, what kind of job do you think I should look for? He said, well, why don't you try sales? You seem to enjoy talking. So...
It's funny, you've not told me that one before.
So you just start somewhere, and then we both would recommend a really good book called "Become So Good They Can't Ignore You."
Yeah.
And I cannot remember the author.
Cal Newport.
Cal Newport.
I got that one.
So start somewhere and become really good at something.
Yeah.
And once you figure out something that you're good at, and you begin to move to your how, mm-hmm. As you figure out your how, simultaneously start thinking about your why. Mm-hmm. And your why is always going to be something involving other people. Because if you stay stuck on that, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
If you stay that way, you'll just be a self-oriented, arrogant person over time. Yeah. If you keep feeding that. And not only that, you probably end up not being very good at it over time, because people that are really good at something are inspired. Mm-hmm. They have a why. And that why always involves, how does what I do really change the lives of other people?
Yeah.
So
another point on that, and we're going to tie this up pretty soon, but another point on that of not expanding your why, it gets boring, it gets old, it gets stale. And I'm thinking on the aspect as the part of my career as a musician. because I've just been, doing these series of dates working for Disney playing at the Disney Grand Hotel and Spa, from what I heard. That's how they've expanded the name of it. But if I just focus on, oh, this is beautiful for me, I'm totally bored throughout the day. It's just, no. I realize that every single set that I go out there, there's a different audience, and they are hearing that, and I want to give them something fresh. So I push myself a little bit creatively. Let's do it in a different key. Of course, I have to think. But it makes it fun. I'm able to smile at them. I'm able to give them something more. And so it gives, when we don't stay stale, it will make it more interesting for us. It'll make it more exciting. It'll drive us. And that's why people think, oh, I just always wanted to do something different now. That's dangerous for creatives, because we're always doing that because we have to stay focused. But the fact that it's deeper than just self-serving is it will energize and give you just that extra momentum in your life. And there's just stages of that, and realize that's okay. That's really okay. It's okay to take that job just because you finished school and your parents don't want you living at home. They want you self-supporting. Go get a job, or you're good at talking. That's funny, actually. You actually are. We have a whole podcast on that, when a type B marries a type A. So anyway, well, you'll have to look at that one. So thank you, everyone, for being with us. Please get on our newsletter, Goals for Your Life, all together, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. I write an article with every single podcast episode that comes out. Listen, share with others. I have started Learn Music again. You can look for the Facebook group. That's an easy on-ramp. Easy. You can be as anonymous as you want. A lot of other things going on. My Hero Mountain Summit, of course. You can look up my books. Any of my websites, you'll find that. Deborah Johnson Speaker. I love events, love virtual as well as live events. But just look at upcoming articles that I have and podcasts. I'll look forward to being with you then. And Greg and I will be back together again next month for another episode that we have together. So thanks again for joining me. Any last words?
Nope. Yeah. I hope you all find your why and really make a difference in other people's lives.
Great messaging. Okay, well, bye for now, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. Share and follow us for new shows to inspire you and encourage you in your life's journey. You can find all of our articles and links at womenathalftime.com.